Mariko Tamaki and Dan Mora pit Batman against the jury, the group Mr. Worth has organized to see that both Batman and Bruce Wayne get the righteous justice both men deserve for killing Sarah Worth. Mariko Tamaki gets things back on track slightly here, taking even more from Bruce and making him essentially homeless now. Thanks to this, we get some cool classic Batsuit action back, as well as another confrontation between Worth and Batman. While that stuff was fun to watch unfold, it feels like this portion of the story has been dragged out immensely. Not to mention, Worth has now created a group called the Jury to judge Batman for his crimes, something I didn't think was really necessary. He could have just fought Batman again and no new group needed to be created or anything. Connecting it up with Vile and what has become of him was pretty neat though, and I like the criminals weaponizing his parasite. That was pretty cool, although Batman being turned was pretty easy to call because of course that would happen eventually, because then we get the Cthulhu Batman that we've seen in images and everything. Dan Mora again does some really fantastic artwork here, bringing back the classic Batsuit from the last issue for Batman to use, and I loved the battle in the warehouse playing to Batman's strengths of stealth, and the pages covered with black shadows and red light really led to a pleasing aesthetic, especially when they then injected the whole green of the parasite into the color scheme as well, and it just kind of popped off the page a little bit and looked fantastic. Detective Comics issue 1041 was an improvement over the last issue thanks to its fun action and connecting plot lines. But again, the plot involving Worth and Vile are played out by now, and the book needs to be moving on to something else. I'm going to give this issue a 6 out of 10. Detective Comics issue 1041 finds Chris Nakano told all about the parasitic infection many people in the city are afflicted with, learning the effects are like rabies and it makes those with it violent. They know that there is a local source for this, so someone or something is infecting the people, which then initiates a series of violent attacks, and so far they have identified 11 infected bodies in the morgue and 3 patients at the hospital. Chris is told that of the 3 patients, 2 have recovered, including reporter Deb Donovan. Chris wants everyone that they have working on it to find a source for it all so they can tell people how to avoid it, and he will do a press conference that afternoon about it. Chris turns talk to the explosions in the sewer systems, learning that they were done by detonator devices, and a few criminal organizations used the chaos it caused to bust some skulls and break some windows. He wonders if this has tied to the parasite, but his people know it's unlikely anyone infected had the dexterity to rig explosives. Chris calls for Hugh to get into the office as he asks what happened to Mr. Worth, but his people know he's gone missing, prompting Chris to demand he be found. His assistant tells him that they haven't heard from Hugh Vile either as he asks about Bruce Wayne, learning that he was released that morning and his house caught fire late that night, but before he was released from lockup. They know that Wayne was the target, but they don't know who is targeting him. Bruce meanwhile knows that Worth is behind this since he is obsessed with his own justice, which is to hammer something over and over and over, and he will not stop, but Bruce needs to stop him. Bruce heads to the sewers knowing that he doesn't have many options left since his micro cave outpost under the brownstone was destroyed by Worth's attack, but also by his men he sent in to finish the job. Bruce finds it reassuring that they wouldn't have gotten any of his equipment since it would have self-destructed the moment they set foot in the perimeter. Soon a construction worker calls out to him asking who is there as Bruce takes off, with the worker thinking that it's just kids messing around. Bruce crawls from the sewers, scaring a woman as he knows fighting Gotham's richest isn't easy when you're no longer the richest person in Gotham. Getting his phone charged at a nearby cafe, Bruce calls Oracle, who's surprised he's going old school with the phone call. Bruce says that in the last 48 hours his home was blown up and his micro cave was shredded. He asks about Huntress and Deb, learning that Helena is missing but Deb is recovering still in hospital. She asks about the prison, but Bruce says that technically he was in jail and maybe that was a mistake. Oracle says that she couldn't get CCTV footage of the fire, but it might be connected to a rumor she's following about who Mr. Worth is teaming with. Bruce knows, however, it's the Penguin, as Barbara says that there's word around the street about a coordinated effort to kill Bruce Wayne. Bruce asks how many are involved with it, but Barb doesn't know and knows it's a pretty wide call, and now an army of villains have one goal: kill Bruce Wayne and Batman. Bruce tells her that he needs gear since there are construction crews near the sewers and he doesn't want to be seen accessing the micro cave again. Oracle tells him his old stash by the docks is still there, so Bruce hopes it's secure as later he retrieves his old bat suit, learning from Oracle that she has tracked Worth to a downtown warehouse. Bruce knows he's expecting him as he sees all of the billboards and signs in the city have been turned into signs demanding that Batman deliver Bruce Wayne, all being signed by the jury. Bruce knows it's time to meet this jury, heading to the warehouse where Worth hopes that Oswald is right. Batman disrupts their meeting, attacking the villain's henchmen as Worth calls for enough. Penguin is glad that Batman could join them in his blue this time, telling the hero that their endeavor should intrigue him since they seek justice in the matter of the murder of Sarah Worth, whose life was taken by Bruce Wayne. Batman says that Sarah was killed by a man named Neil Betterman. Worth disagrees, saying that the jury finds that the case has been sullied by the undue influence of Batman and the agenda of the vigilante forces have in Gotham, so the hero's testimony is tainted by his interest with Wayne. Batman asks what the evidence is, so Worth asks why he's protecting Bruce, but Batman says that he protects Gotham, but Worth retorts, saying that he didn't protect Sarah. Batman knows he didn't, and Worth tells him because of it makes him guilty as Wayne. Batman says that Gotham is a city of guilty men and powerful men who fail to protect its most vulnerable, and a city of men blinded by injustice, doomed to repeat the crimes against them. Worth is enraged by being called blind, as Batman says that Roland seeks justice, but he knows he really seeks revenge. Roland says that Wayne's DNA was found in Sarah's apartment and he was seen with her by a woman who was later also found dead. Penguin knows that the jury finds Worth's case very compelling, as Batman says the police investigated and cleared Wayne of any wrongdoing, but Worth doesn't care since today they are his judge and jury. Worth demands his men fire, so the men hiding in the rafters open fire on the hero with automatic weapons. Bruce remembers his father once said that the real monster of the world were men without reason and men who only know one truth and see only one answer. The gunfire causes Batman to deploy a smoke bomb and grapple up to the roof, ditching his cape and cowl as a distraction. Donning his spare mask, Bruce knows that his father was wrong about few things, but this was one of them, since men without reason are still dangerous, but they are the tip of the iceberg where monsters are concerned. Hours earlier, Penguin's doctor uses a special gun to extract the blood from the parasite inside Hugh. In the present, a person with the gun loaded with the parasite blood takes aim at Batman, shooting Batman in the leg and infecting him as he falls to the ground, demanding to know what they have done to him. Bruce begins feeling the effects of the parasite as Oracle contacts Huntress, who wants to know where Batman is. Oracle tells her that he has been chasing Worth to a downtown warehouse as Helena knows that he has been infected. Not being able to explain how, but thanks to being infected herself, she can feel him and see Vile has Batman. Batman meanwhile is taken under the parasite's control as Bruce knows that the true terror of this world is the endless possibilities and the monsters yet to be born.